Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for sticking in. I know by the end of the day, everyone's pretty tired, so I'm excited to have you all here. Let's get started. So who am I? My name is Amy Tessitore, and I'm the Director of Global Services Delivery for Moodle. And service delivery is a pretty large group. This is the hosting, some of the development in terms of custom development, learning design, and support services, formerly known as Moodle US. This is the services group now. So a little bit about me. I'm a longtime educator. I've taught with Moodle. I've been a Moodle admin. I worked for a Moodle partner and then finally came over to what Claire, my colleague, so affectionately refers to as the mothership, and I'm very excited to be with Moodle. I am a serial home improvement project starter, so if you're with me on that, woohoo, we never finish them, but we've got lots of stuff going. I've been studying my doctorate and writing my doctorate for a couple years now, focusing in researching of socio-demographic bias and learning analytics modeling. And I'm a mom to 2 teenage boys and a sweet dog named Pearl, which means I have to pay the dog tax, and this is Pearl. Pearl dislikes the vacuum cleaner and the postman, but she loves everyone else. She did once raid a bunny den when I was on a call with the CEO. That was traumatic for everyone. And she's never met a blanket she didn't love, so she's very sweet and very sad that I'm here, but we love her very much. So today we're going to talk about accessibility and inclusion in the frame of reference of using AI. Now I want to start at the outset and let you know that this is an LMS agnostic presentation, meaning I will talk about other tools, but I will also thread in some of the places that we're using AI to create those equitable experiences in Moodle. So accessibility, it is the practice of creating and making information, activities, environments, all of these things meaningful and usable for as many people as possible. There's often a misconception that accessibility is targeted to a very specific group of people, but it's actually about making sure that these things are accessible for everyone. It is not specific to individuals with declared disabilities. It's not an option, and it's also not a lower standard, which is another misconception that people have, that somehow we've lowered the bar to make things easier for people, when instead we're removing barriers, and those are two very different things. So one thing that I like to share, and I think is very important for people to know, is that the global prevalence of disabilities it's estimated that between 16 and 18% of the population are individuals who are living with a disability. That is 1.3 billion people, or 1 in every 6 people you meet. And to give you some context of what 1.3 billion is in a more measurable term, 1.3 billion seconds is about 41.2 years. And if we were to start now, we would hit 1.3 billion seconds in 2066. So what that means is there are a lot of people who are living with disabilities. Now, as you think about that, you're thinking to yourself, I don't believe I know that many people who are living with disabilities, and that is because 93% of all disabilities are not what we call non-observable impairments. That means that you don't see them. We often focus on people who have visual impairments or people who are hearing impaired, but there are many other types of disabilities that individuals are living with. And what happens here is because we don't see them, we don't focus on that. We think they're not there, we think they don't exist, and we don't believe we have to build learning experiences for this population of individuals. So what is inclusion? We've talked about what accessibility is, so what does it mean to be inclusive? Because they are two different terms, but I think you can't really have one without the other. So inclusion is that sense of belonging, where we foster an environment where people feel like they're accepted and they belong. They have a place in that environment. It also means we create equal opportunity. Again, it's not a different kind of opportunity, it's an equal and equitable opportunity for individuals. And that means that we ensure everyone has the same chances to participate regardless of their ability to do so or any limitations that they might have in a traditional or standard or non-accessible environment. When we're inclusive, we value differences, and I think this is a really important one. There are lots of differences in our day-to-day life, but when we're valuing those, instead of viewing them as weaknesses, when we're inclusive, we recognize that differences are actually strengths. It brings something new that we don't have a contextual experience or a lived experience with, when we have the opportunity to understand other people's perspectives or needs or things like that. It's really about removing barriers, and you'll hear me talk about this a lot. When I was an educator, I used to say, my job as an educator isn't to tell you what you need to know, it's to reduce the barriers for you to achieve more knowledge in something that you were trying to find out. So I'll often say, I'm not the keeper of knowledge. My job is to share the things that I've gained in life because that's my purpose here. That's a way of removing barriers. And when we bring all that together, it's respect and understanding. So we're approaching all of our relationships, our interactions with people, the design of learning experiences, training opportunities, and lifelong learning from this context of respect and understanding. So let's talk a little bit about the prevalence and growth of AI. Nothing new here for any of you, but spoiler, we've been using AI for a lot longer than we think we have. So, hey Siri, hopefully my phone doesn't actually pick that up. Digital voice assistants. My mom loves this, that speech to text that she uses, so I can't understand a lot of her texts. But we also use digital voice assistants when we do things like have our phone read directions to us, whether that is we're navigating somewhere or we've asked our phone to actually read text to us because we're in the middle of something and can't stop to read it. Media suggestions. I went with a broad term media, but if you think about when you log into your Netflix account or Hulu account, there are suggested activities, suggested watching for you. That's been around for a long time, and that's AI-based. And then, of course, online shopping. Amazon listens to everything you say and proposes different things for you to buy, as we all know when things show up at our house. So how long did it take to get to 100 million users for some other popular not necessarily AI-driven, but social media apps? So it took 2.5 years to reach 100 million users on Instagram, 9 months on TikTok. Anybody know how long it took for ChatGPT? 2 months, pretty close. Yeah, so 2 months to get to 100 million users for ChatGPT. So what that means is that AI is really prevalent, and we all know that, and there's two camps really when it comes to AI, right? Sometimes people feel like AI is going to be the downfall of society. Some people are kind of in the middle. They see that there might be some value, but I think with most things that are kind of innovative and new and allow us access to different information in an easier way, there is a place and a space where we can grab onto the very positive aspects of what AI can do for us, and that's really what we're going to talk about today. And that is where AI helps us to become more accessible and inclusive in the environments that we create. So some of the things that we use that increase accessibility, so these are different tools that we can use. We've got assistive technology like magnifiers. So how many people here are now at the age where you have to take a picture of the menu in the restaurant and then blow it up to see anything? I'm there with you. I'm in denial, but we're there. So there's that, but there are apps that actually will magnify things for you. Talking devices such as a talking thermostat. So if you're visually impaired, you can't really see on old style thermostats what temperature your thermostat is set at. Talking thermostats are great for people who are visually impaired, also for the elderly who have a difficult time navigating their thermostat. Braille displays, there are Braille displays in a lot of places now. Screen reader software, and we've heard a little bit about some of that here today in some of the other sessions. Text-to-speech systems that use optical character recognition is another one. Phones with large tactile buttons. Now, I don't see a lot of these anymore, but I did see one recently at a concert, and those buttons were huge, and I was like, that's my future right there. And then auto-translation services, which I'm very fond of. Working in a global team, auto-translation services are really handy and help me to connect with my team that's more global and worldwide, and we don't all share the same primary language. So one tool that I really like is one called Seeing AI, and this is a free app that you can download from the App Store, AI-driven, and it's constantly iterating, pulling in information not just from the app, but from the users of the app to iterate. It narrates the world around you. And so when you hold up your phone to something with Seeing AI on, you can choose to have it create an audio, it can narrate for you, it can look at images and tell you what you're seeing. So if I'm visually impaired and I hold this up, I can now narrate the world around me. This means that it's much easier for me to navigate the world and to understand what's happening, and it's a free app. So this is a great example of how AI is really helpful for us. Definitely assists with those daily tasks, what we call the daily activities of living. and describing the various things around you. Now imagine if you are visually impaired and you go to the grocery store and you're going down the cleaning aisle and you need dish soap, but that is next to some other type of cleaning chemical that would not be good to use on your dishes. Something like Seeing AI gives you that, it helps you to differentiate between what you're seeing, which creates a much safer environment for you. Language translation is another one. So language translation is primarily AI driven. For those of you who are my age, I had this dictionary thing that I had to use when I took French to try to figure out the words. And that worked fine. I don't actually speak French now, so maybe it didn't. But AI-driven language translation actually brings in other methods of helping to people learn, leveraging those neural networks and the deep learning strategies so that people are sticking with languages more quickly. Now, while Duolingo didn't work for me because it tried to talk to me about a cat on a roof with milk in Ukrainian, which didn't make any sense to me, my children have popped up on Duolingo and they have little competitions with their friends about who's going to learn something the quickest. And they are very sticky. It sticks with them really well. They like the gamification, but it definitely is leveraging that neural network to help them learn. Things like Duolingo are also very accessible. So now, if you have a hearing or a visual impairment, you actually can more easily access language learning through an app that's AI-driven. It's increasingly accurate, too. I'll say that I write a newsletter to the services team. I try once a month, but, you know, whatever. So I try that once a month, but my team is spread out around the world, so I try to translate that newsletter into the primary languages that my team has let me know that they speak. And over time, just in the time that I've been here, I asked the team for feedback and they report that it's becoming more and more accurate. The translations make more sense, and that's great because as we add team members around the world, it's important for me to know that I have a tool to be able to translate the communications that go out into all of the primary languages that my team members speak. Real-time captioning. So I was in the Brickfield Education session this morning, and Gavin showed an app on the phone because I was talking about difficulty getting the auto captioning to work for my presentation. I typically will auto caption. And he said, hey, come check out this new tool that I have. It's web-based. I broadcast and it automatically generates captions and transcription on your phone. So I was able to follow on my personal device, increase and decrease the sizes according to what I needed based on something he was presenting at the front. Real-time captioning is very, very important when we think about accessible and inclusive environments. From an accessibility perspective, we know that captioning and transcription are a must. From an inclusion standpoint, this means that if I'm speaking to an audience for whom English isn't their first language and my accent makes it more difficult for them to understand what I'm saying, real-time captioning is extremely helpful here. So this is something that creates both accessibility and inclusion. And that means that it's accessible to everyone and it is accessibility for everyone. So let's talk about some applications and actual learning design and what does that look like. We can use AI to rapidly develop lots of things. Now, I like to tell this story because I think it's hilarious. My son was dead set he was going to use AI for everything one year. And I was like, I do this for a living. I'm going to tell you, you'll get caught. And he was certain he wouldn't. And he had to write an essay on cash crops. And his dad called me and he said, I'm going to have him read this essay for you. And he asked AI for another word for cash crops, and it came up with money vegetation, and he wrote a whole essay on money vegetation. And I was like, and that's why I know that AI can be used for good and is probably not going to take my job, but also I think your teachers are going to catch you. So I say all of this to say, while we can rapidly develop things, you do need to check what you're working on. So things that I have used AI for in the past are developing training outlines. It's not that I haven't built them before, but when I want to revise something, I don't always have that kind of time to go back through, but I can say, hey, I have this training outline for this audience. Can you revise it to better target this other audience? Maybe it's someone who's a learning designer level 1 versus a learning design level 4 that's coming in. Also course content. We have an incredible AI subsystem that Matt's been working on, his team are working on, that I love to use to help create course content. I used to teach this course on environmental science, and one of the requirements was that students had to write an essay on a recent news article. That means my content needs to be based on recent articles. I can use AI to help me find that, to refine things that I've written in the past. Even I get tired of reading my same prompts over and over again, year after year. So I'm able to help generate my course content quickly, but also revise it. Audio narration, so I can ask ChatGPT or some other, I actually don't use that one, I use Claude, but you can ask your AI to create an audio narration for something that you have written, and now you automatically have audio transcription that is, or an audio track to go with anything that you've written, and now it's accessible. You have that in at least 2 versions, 2 ways of digesting that. Text transcription, same way, we flip it the other way. Hey, transcribe this text into something else. You can, or you'll say, I've done this, created this, sometimes I use it for infographics. I've created this infographic. Can you create a text translation or transcript of this infographic for someone who may not be able to access it in the format that I have it in? And assessments. This one I'm a little flimsy on. I would be super angry as a student if all of my tests were written by AI, but similarly, I have some questions that I've used for a long time, or I might have questions that are poorly performing. My quiz statistics indicate that they're not reliable and valid, and perhaps I just know it's probably the way I've written the question. I can ask AI to revise that for me. I do like to use this in Moodle to generate, I like to do what we call the pre and post quiz. So I like to use this to say, give me 10 multiple choice questions on this topic. And then I'll say, give me 10 multiple choice questions on this topic for after I've taught it, so I can determine if knowledge has been gained. It's not a formal assessment, it's not a summative assessment, it's a really great one for me to be able to revise my own teaching strategies and to make sure that my content is aligned with what I'm trying to achieve. Also, unfolding case studies and scenario-based learning. I'll preface this by saying I was a Moodle admin at a nursing school, so I am way down deep in the unfolding case studies. And we will talk a little bit about that in a second. So I said you already, you can generate some assessment questions. I had another slide in there, but it didn't make it in, and it was showing how I generate questions directly in Moodle. If you want to see that, come see me, I will show you. Generating those complex activities. So here we go. I put in a prompt into Claude earlier, asking Claude to create a branching scenario for a first-year nursing student who's going to complete a cardiac medication med pass for an 86-year-old female with a patient with a history of hypertension, so high blood pressure, and make sure the student follows the 6 rites of medication administration in this branching scenario. So Claude did that for me. Not only do I have the written piece on the side there, it also gave me a graphic that looks like a patient chart so that I can put that right in front of the student, which I love to do in one of our more interactive activities in Moodle, things like lesson or using other interactive tools so that students have multiple ways to digest this. And I went through and it was a pretty good branching scenario. Much better than the days where I had to write all this out by hand and make it up myself. So much better. It's also a better learning experience for our students because this was something I could generate more quickly, which means that I can create more content for my learners, and this is where accessibility comes in. We need to differentiate learning in courses, and sometimes that's hard if you're the only source of creating that content. If you have an assistant like AI, now you have multiple ways, multiple modes of delivering that content. That's really important. It also means that if I have students who need remediation, I can more quickly create resources for them so that they can remediate on that content and catch up with the class and where we need to be. Personalized learning, so adaptive learning, so the difficulty level of things like quiz questions can change based off of how a learner is interacting with and performing in things. There are lots of platforms for this, but there are some really cool adaptive learning pieces in there. That's exactly what Duolingo does. It's adaptive, so as people use apps, that's another place that AI is helping people. AI-enhanced feedback. So how many people have ever had to grade essays and you have 35 people who've written the essay about the same topic? It's really hard to be like, that's a great opening over and over again and come up with something unique. So AI is really helpful in summarizing what you're trying to say for feedback. It also means that feedback can be highly targeted and immediate when students are in, or even if you're in the workplace and someone is doing workplace training. Also, AI is great at creating skills and knowledge gap analysis. So as someone's going through, AI is looking at how they're performing and immediately tells you where their gaps in knowledge and skill are so that you can tailor a plan for them that aligns with their needs and the goals that we have. So in summary, AI grown rapidly, we all knew that, but like anything, it can be used for good or bad, and we have an opportunity to harness a lot of different AI options to use them for good. And I think that that's really important, and I think that that only happens if we collectively share ideas about ways that we've been able to use AI in a really positive way. The application for accessibility and inclusion, those applications are endless. There's so much that we could be doing, and they're actually really life-changing for people who have traditionally not had access to education for a variety of reasons. And it gives us this opportunity to reframe the way that we create learning experiences. Sometimes people have a perception that creating accessible learning is very difficult. We can reframe that and say it's actually not. It's easy, and we can do it for everyone. And now everyone has equal footing to gain knowledge and to learn and be a lifelong learner and contribute. So that is it for me. This is a slide. A couple of things I will note, and I'll go back through the deck. You can connect with me on LinkedIn here using this QR code if you would like to, or just look for Amy Tessitore. There's about 3 of us in the world, so you're good there. But as I go back through slides, you will see a couple QR codes on these slides. These QR codes links to resources that are directly related to what the topic is on the slide. So this one here is a Moodle doc, a Moodle blog post that we put out about personalized learning. Let me just keep on going back here, find the rest of them. All those transitions, okay? This one is a paper produced by the NIH all about language translation services and using AI language translation services. So if you're interested in reading and nerding out over some of that, that's a QR code for that one. And here, this one is a link so that you can try out Seeing AI if you'd like to. So if you are interested in that, you can scan that QR code and download that. That's all for me. Questions, comments? Mira, thank you.
Okay, yes, I think you have one question here. Yeah.
Just a simple question. Can you please provide the slides for download or so?
I think so. I don't know who that's up to, but I would imagine, yes, we can provide those.
I think the slides are going to be made available, yes, after the moot. Any more questions?
All right. Well, if you ever decide that you want to nerd out over this topic, you can find me anywhere. I will talk forever about Moodle. It's one of the things I'm most passionate about in my life, as well as accessibility and inclusion. So if you think of something, stop me, and happy to chat with all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.